welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanissia. This is the Woolly Worker Knitting Podcast, and today I am joining you for a very special episode of the Woolly Worker Knitting Podcast that will be a little mid-review of my knitting goals that I set out to achieve at the beginning of the year in January 2024. I hope not to spend too much time on this because I don't want to cut myself short for the end of the year review, but I thought it could be interesting and good for accountability on my side to see where I'm at 6 months in the year. I didn't really prepare a huge amount for this video because I wanted it to be kind of genuine and reflective, and I have a few things to show you to kind of illustrate then the goals, and let's see if I'm still on track to achieve them and if I want to modify any of them. So if that sounds interesting to you, then of course keep on watching. There will be timestamps in the description below. I'll try and write down any patterns or people that I mention. Of course, for this video to make sense, you are very welcome to go check out the 2024 knitting goals video to see what I had set out, but I'll also put a little infographic here on the side of what my knitting goals were, and then we'll see if I can tick off any of them. So let's get started. So the first goal that I set out to achieve and wrote down was to achieve a net neutral stash by the end of 2024. And what this means is that I am obviously getting some yarn in, whether it is yarn that I purchase or win or receive, and I'm also getting some yarn out, usually by knitting it up into garments or by destashing, whether it is giving away or selling or donating, or throwing away, but I don't do that. So obviously then you add those up and hopefully you get less yarn bought than used. And I've been tracking this in a couple of different ways. I talked about this briefly in my last video, but I am tracking my Ravelry stash. I always put the yarn that I get into Ravelry, and I then download a copy of my stash on the first of the month every month. And I find that this is the best way because Ravelry automatically calculates yardages that you use. If you say that you use 2.5 balls, then it will remove that from your stash in meters, grams, and balls. And then if I donate yarn and I put it in, donated or not in my stash anymore, then it removes that from your big general tab of in your possession. So I've downloaded the Ravelry stash on the first of every month, and if I just pull up my little spreadsheet here, I'm definitely in a negative amount than I was at the beginning of the year. I've used up or donated or sold at least 4 kilos of yarn, which I know may sound massive for some people. I did have a really big stash at the beginning of the year. I still have a really big stash now, but it's 4 kilos lighter. So that's one way of establishing that. But I've also been tracking things month to month in terms of what I buy. So I do that like really just using my money. And then I also track the yarn that I just knit up, so not counting what I donate. And I feel like this is a more accurate representation because sometimes I just can't control if I win yarn in a giveaway, like I didn't really purchase it. And then donating yarn just feels a little less valid than like I actually used up my yarn. So in my mind, that's for me personally, I thought that I would want to track those two things specifically. And by doing this technique, then I'm actually not in negative just yet. Over the course of the last 6 months, there have been 2 months where I was in net negative, like grams and meters, and then 4 months where I still was buying more yarn than I was using. So sadly then when you put all of these together at the end of the year, I am right now currently I have 500 grams more than what I started with and 2,000 meters more. But I think that's still a much like a better improvement compared to last year. Just being 500 grams up over 6 months I think is really good. I've noticed kind of a trend in my month where every other month I knit up a lot and then the other month I don't, and I think it's because of the way that I work. I have a lot of whips going on at once, and some months I just clean up my needles, clear out all the whips, and that's why the next month I just don't have as many whips to clear. So it's been fun to see the difference in that grams out month by month. But I'm really happy with this progress. I like the fact that I'm tracking on both counts, like just everything in, everything out, and then kind of just the two things that I value, which is like how much yarn I buy and how much yarn I knit up. And I think I'm on track. I just have to stay focused. There were a few things that I was really tempted by this year, like advents and spare advents and summer advents. It's really hard not to be tempted. I've definitely been buying less at festivals, which we'll get to in a little bit, and I think my purchasing habits have definitely changed, and I feel a bit more confident about the way that I approach the hobby now. It's been really good using up my stash, like I've been saying in lots of past videos. I've just been tempted by my own stash and inspired by it, as opposed to chasing the next big thing. I was really inspired by a lot of new patterns and new yarns last year, and then giving in to those impulses and buying the new yarns, trying to really experiment with lots of different fabrics and qualities. And I just obviously haven't had the time to do that as fast as I was purchasing them, so now I am spending the time experimenting with those new yarns and new bases. I'm still pretty much I don't often reknit with the same yarn. I'm still using a lot of different ones. This is an example of a yarn, the fiber company Meadow, which is very, very special, and I do like it, and I would like to use it again, but I'm just always using up new things and yeah, just other quantities. So yeah, I hope that was interesting. Obviously stash is a very personal thing, and we all have different budgets, different lives, and different ways that we approach this. I'm trying not to put any like real numbers there, just to avoid having people like just to not invite comparisons. That's why I was saying just in relative terms, you know, having 400 grams more or 500 grams more, and having reduced 4 kilos in terms of like destashing and things like that. That was partly because I donated a huge amount of acrylic yarns that I wasn't using for crochet anymore. That was a really big thing that Ravelry obviously took in, but that didn't appear in my monthly month-by-month table of knitting up, so that's why the discrepancy is that big. But I was just saying, yeah, I don't want people to feel bad or anything, so that's why I'm keeping things a little vague. But yeah, so that was goal number 1. I think it's I'm gonna put that as a maybe on the scale, where I'm not technically achieving that goal just yet on the one that matters, the month by month one, but it's definitely on track for the end of the year. So the next goal that I had set out was to get to really lean in my summer color palette. I had kind of decided or identified that my color analysis was light summer, and I've been really trying to only buy yarns that are in that color palette, being inspired by those colors and using up that color palette. And I'm actually going to put a little Ravelry tutorial at the end of the video for something that I found that was really helpful to plan this video. So using that trick, I pulled up on Ravelry all the knits from 2024 that were using this light summer color palette, and I'm really pleased to say that there's at least 7 or 8 sweaters that have been using that color palette, and I really like it. I'll try and maybe put a little montage of me wearing them, and you can tell me if they suit me like I think they do, or if you think that it's still not quite my color palette, but I think it is. I think this isn't, for example, but I still really like this t-shirt. But I'll now pull up my light summer knits of 2024, and yeah, you'll see. So yay, as you can see, we've got a lot of blues. Got 5 blue things, and then we've got this little light green pastel number, and then this beautiful rainbow pastel one that was hand-dyed. So I'll just quickly go through them really, really briefly. We've got, not in order, the Urania cardigan from Sari Nordland. This is in Camarose Midnight Sol and Knitting for Olive Merino. Then we have the Rue sweater from the Creabea, that was a test knit, and that's in the fiber company Lore. This is the Sila sweater by Jonah Hietala, and this is in Sandnesgarn Borsted Alpaca. This is a recent one, the Slightly Sassy V by Amy Scher, and this is in alpaca silk cashmere fingering from the Fiber Fox hand-dyed yarn. My most recent finished item, which is the blouse number 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. Really, really like this one. Friday Tea by Petite Knit in Sandnesgarn Sunday, just fingering stripes. And then the Season Sweater by Ozetta in the Roram Natura Gilead, held with Pigment and Ply Surrey Alpaca. And again, as you can tell, all of these were different yarn qualities, but I think that pulling up this little stash or finished garments really brought me joy. They really represent the colors that I feel the most happy knitting up with and then wearing. They've definitely gotten me a lot of compliments over the last few months, and I feel like having found these that really suit me, it doesn't make any sense for me to just like knit with browns and beiges when these really bring up my blue eyes and I guess like the pink of my cheeks or the lightness of my skin and hair. It's just really nice to have found something that I can use as a guideline, and if I'm hesitating between two qualities, maybe I would go for the one that hits that category. And I've really been enjoying doing this. I know it's not for everybody. Once again, people might not like having rules to follow, but I really thrive under guidelines and yeah, just rules and right and wrong. So I love it. I'm really happy with that. It's a complete success of the year. Really happy that I dedicated myself to doing this, and I will continue to do that for the next 6 months for sure. Okay, the third goal was to slow down, and I think I have not exactly met that. When I look on Ravelry at the knits that I finished in 2024, I can see that I've knitted up 40 items, of which it was 16 pieces of clothing and 24 accessories. A couple of these were test knits, some sample knits, a couple of gifts as well for family members, but mostly all the garments, yeah, they were for me. There's one of them that I'm going to frog, the Sonia sweater, but all of the other ones have been pretty successful. I've worn all of the garments that I've made this year, so none of them are going to appear in my fails video of things that I knit and never wear. I think it's been a better year in terms of choosing things that I want to commit to, as opposed to just doing things on a whim that I hadn't thought through. Obviously, that's still a very productive and prolific month or period of 6 months. Again, I don't want to invite comparison and I don't need to justify myself. I just knit fast and I knit a lot. The goal was to slow down because I was kind of getting panicked in my head about where to store all my knits and what to do with them. Definitely still struggling with this thought sometimes, but I already received a lot of advice from other people and people saying it's normal and that eventually I'll just end up donating or gift knitting and pass things on, and that's completely fine. So I guess it's not a very successful goal, and it goes hand in hand with the next goal, which is going to be to knit things that are more complex. And that was sort of my preferred strategy that I thought would help me combat the huge amount of garments I was just producing for myself, was that if I selected items that were more complex and difficult and time consuming to knit, I would just knit less. And I can see here on my projects, for example, that I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colorwork item, and I'm obviously doing one that's really big right now. The colorwork things, I really would say that they are much more time consuming and difficult. However, they're also less practical and portable, and I have to be on my computer with my chart, so I find it less easy to incorporate in my day-to-day life knitting to do the complex garments. So it's tricky because I've really been craving a lot of simple garments so I can multitask and, you know, watch TV or do other things, but doing the more complex garment would probably help me be more mindful of my craft and having actually dedicated knitting time to do the complex things. So it's good to remind myself right now, I guess, halfway through the year, that I'm not doing well on this goal. I should focus a little bit. I have a lot of items on my sort of, you know, MAGNUM OPUS list, or just queue in general, things that I know for sure are complex in terms of basically following charts. Anything that has to follow a chart, basically, I would say is a complex knit. And I think I'm going to try and prioritize these then for the latter half of the year. And I'm excited about that. I think that'll be quite nice to hopefully see a change in course. So that was me talking about those two goals, I guess. The slowing down and complex knits. Obviously the last complex knit that I'm doing is my Yale cardigan by Mary Wallen. It's on ice at the moment. I've just come across a little hiccup where I basically put it down for a while and I forgot where I was. And I think what I'm going to do is after I finish filming this video, I'll try and put it back on the needles and reset and find out where I was, so I can put myself in the best position to continue doing it, because it would be silly not to. And I kind of have this slight goal in my mind that I'd like to have it finished for the Glasgow School of Yarn so I can wear it in, I think, November. I don't know if it's that crazy a goal or if it's doable, but it's kind of the guideline I've been having in my mind as a way to not drag this on for 2 years. So yeah. The next goal was to design a pattern, and that was part of my live stream that I did for charity 6 months ago. We reached one of the milestones for the goals, and then I said I would design a pattern. So that's still, obviously, like, I haven't forgotten. I just haven't really... I was inspired at some point, and then I wasn't anymore. So, like, inspiration and availability have been variable. But I have an idea. It's going to be a color work cowl. I do want to start it and have a sample, do a little test call over the last half of summer, then release it hopefully in sort of September, October, November even would be fine. It's going to be another charity release, so it will be a very cheap pattern and the funds will just go directly to charity. I'm yet to choose the charity, but I just thought it'd be a nice way to sort of round up the little story of doing a charity live stream and doing a charity pattern release. It's just going to be a very simple pattern. I'm hoping that some of you are going to be interested in testing it. I might offer different options for color work and different options for sizes as well, depending on how time consuming that is. And I'm also going to be using a tech editor, so if you know of any tech editor or you are one yourself, please let me know. I'll start to look into that, because I would really like to have this released this year. Next section is to tackle my hand-dyed stash, and that is also a resounding success so far, halfway through the year. So using again the same little trick that I did, that I'll show you at the end of the video how to do on Ravelry, I've identified all the hand-dyed things that I've made this year, and yeah, I took some of them here. I don't know if I have all of them. So here's most of my hand-dyed stuff. So I'll go through them quickly. We've got the Season Sweater by Rosetta, which I've already shown. Slightly Sassy V by Amy Scher. Lento Sweater by also Jonah Hietala. That was made with Isiger Alpaca 2, which is a 50-50 alpaca merino. And then it also has hand-dyed from Giddy Yarn, which was in the colorway Misery, which was inspired by Stephen King. And I think this one turned out really beautifully. It was really not any pooling of the speckles, so that was a success for hand-dyed. I have the Birds of a Feather shawl by Andrea Mari, and that was with hand-dyed yarn from Skin and the Stitch, in colorway the Iliad, and then that was Cumulus from Fiber Spades in Earl Grey, and that's a really beautiful pairing of colors, I think, that gives quite a neutral scarf shawl, and I've been wearing this a lot to keep me warm inside in the sort of Scottish spring summer. And the latest finished item, which is my Poet's Scarf by Sari Nordland, and that was in some hand-dyed Surrey from the Fiber Fox in the colorway Cherry Blossom, and that was actually using the same Alpaca 2 from Isiger in the color E0 that I did for the Lento, so really trying to use up as much as possible of my leftovers. And then a little pouch that I made, I think in pretty much January or February. This was hand-dyed yarn from Nervous Fiber in Devonia, like the base Devonia from John Arbin. And then my friend Aude very kindly offered to sew the lining for me. So since the last time you saw it, it actually has a little lining now. And I just have to put the little chain and it'll be an actual finished item. I know I haven't spoken about this, but yeah, that was a really nice way of using 100 grams of DK hand-dyed yarn. And just a little beret that I'll put here because I can find it. So those are my hand-dyed items that I've not unraveled. So that's 7 hand-dyed items. There were 2 other hand-dyed things, but they were sample knits. And this has brought so much joy. I'm so happy about having used that much hand-dyed, and I have no plans on stopping. I've just cast on something new here with a hand-dyed. I've got my oh, what's it called? Pink velvet from Ravelry right now with hand dyed. That's the yoke of it is just finished. I'll put a photo here because why not? And I've really been happy and proud of doing this, and it's not even been hard. Like, I haven't had to convince myself to use it, because it just, I'm still really excited about the yarns that I have bought. I still have the same taste in hand dyed at least, but I have made a couple of decisions or realizations regarding hand dyed. I think I might move away now from buying sweater quantities, because I've not had the best luck sometimes with pooling and hand dyed in large seas of stockinette stitches. So I've been really enjoying doing little scarves with hand dyed and accessories, so I think I'm gonna go back to doing these now, with buying 1 or 2 hand dyed skeins. Or also, if I really want to make a sweater, I've totally loved making my Slightly Sassy V in that just tonal color from the Fiber Fox, so I think I'm going to buy maybe more tonals as opposed to variegated. And I do like speckles, and I think that that worked really well for, or is that what you would call a speckle? I don't know what really this was, because it was sort of pink and cream, so maybe it was variegated, but I think that that variegation worked so well, and I'm definitely going to be looking out for more skeins like this, as opposed to the things that are a bit too crazy in color. For example, if I look at my stash here, I think I might buy less things like this, which is a bit too variegated and less usable, as opposed to things like this, which will be perfect for a garment. So I think that's it for the hand-dyed goal. Not much else to say apart from it's working out really well and it's a success. Okay, next goal was to attend yarn festivals, and that has been achieved, of course. I went to the Wool Producer Showcase in February, Woolly Good Gathering in March or April, and Tangles Gala Shields in June. The funny thing is that actually at those 3 festivals, I literally did not buy any hand-dyed yarn. I think that's not wrong in me saying that, and that was going hand in hand with my goal to not buy as much stash this year and use up the hand-dyed I already have. It has been really nice for me socially to go to those yarn festivals, but I've also kind of maybe thought there was no point in me going to all the yarn festivals this year if I wasn't even going to buy anything. So I've decided to skip a couple, or only just go to one more this year, which is going to be the Glasgow School of Yarn, like I just said, hoping to wear my Gale cardigan, but that might just be a pipe dream. I feel like the festivals have definitely become less overwhelming for me. I feel a bit more in my natural element, and I'm always happy to see familiar faces, whether it's vendors, friends, or even subscribers. I've seen a few of you like at a lot of the festivals, and I've been with my boyfriend to a couple of them, and we always have a good time. I'm really grateful that he also enjoys this environment and takes an interest in the hobby. And in terms of the purchasing, I feel torn, because I really do like supporting vendors, especially the vendors that I've come to know and that I know are local to me, and that I align a lot with their values and their products, and it's just a bit tricky that I just don't have all the money in the world and the time in the world to use the products. So I try and do things like this, like the vlogs for Tangled Gala Shields, to try and bring awareness to them and hopefully help them out in word of mouth sort of way, even if I can't support them financially at every festival that I attend. I also have this feeling that because I can go to the festivals every year, I don't have that rush of scarcity or unavailability where I know I could just get my hands on the product at a later date. So it's been good to just go to the festivals and not feel pressured or pushed to buy anything, knowing that I can just do it at future ones, but still taking a bit of self-restraint. And I do feel tired at the end of the day, and sometimes a bit jealous when I see what other beautiful things people have gotten from the festivals. It's good that they're not that frequent, like there is a bit of a gap between each of the ones in Scotland, and it's definitely needed to reset mentally and physically from the festivals. But yeah, I've really enjoyed attending them this year. Again, it's looking a bit different the way that I attend them now compared to last year, and then maybe next year I'll attend them even less, but nothing wrong with that. Next item was to fix, mend, and declutter. And I guess I haven't really been doing that. To be honest, I kind of had forgotten in a way, or I just hadn't really put it on the priorities as opposed to the destashing and the summer color palette and the hand-dyed. Like those ones were definitely at the forefront of my mind. But the fixing and mending, I've really not done. And I know I should. I was really wanting, like I remember saying in my goals video that I wanted to take the time that my knits deserved. It's not just about the knitting, but it's all about the finishing touches, and if something is too long or too short, you really have to go back and fix that, as opposed to just thinking, oh, it's fine. Or at least that's the philosophy that I want to adopt for my knitting and my garments, but I've really not been doing that much, and part of it is laziness, I suppose. I don't really have any other excuses, it's just sometimes I just can't be bothered. Another part of it though, I feel maybe I've been making less mistakes, so maybe there has been less to fix and mend. I mean, I don't wear my knits daily to the point that they need mending immediately. Like right now I don't think that anything is broken. I do weave my ends pretty much before I block or after I block, like on the day. And in terms of fixing, I just don't think that there has been that many things that I need to fix. Like sometimes it's just about unraveling if you realize you've made a mistake, and sometimes I do that unless I'm too far gone, and other times it, like, not fixing inspires me to be creative in my problem solving and then like increasing later or adjusting length later. So I feel like nothing right now to me is glaring that I need to fix. There's only one thing that was a major fail this year, which was my Sonia sweater, which just was way too big for me, body and sleeves wise. And I've decided very early on that I was just going to unravel that, not fix it, but just do a completely different pattern with that yarn combination. And I guess this is kind of meeting that goal, where instead of just convincing myself that it's fine, and not wanting to lose all that time and progress like put into it, I've just accepted that like no, it's not going to lead to a finished item that I'm happy with. So I guess in that sense I met that goal, but apart from that, not really anything that I've fixed. And the last item was to enter a craft show, and I've done that. That was the Royal Highland Show held in Edinburgh at the end of June, and some of you have seen in my stories. Really happy to say that I've actually won the first prize for my cowl for the category neckwear, just in any ply. So I'll show you my little cowl that I made. It was the Nellie Fair Isle cowl by Mary Wallen. Beautiful, really happy with it. I had made this earlier in the year for the purpose of entering the show, and yeah, so it was judged here on a bunch of categories. We had design and use of color, suitability of materials, workmanship, technique, finish and presentation, and degree of difficulty. And I got full marks for all of them, so I got 20 out of 20, which then earned me this little first prize card. And I'm so happy. Like, this was a huge win, because last year I participated as well, and I didn't get any prize. I wasn't even third or anything, so I guess it feels like a step up. I entered a pair of socks, but they didn't win anything. So 1 out of 2 entries won something. I'm really looking forward to entering again next year, because obviously it's great to do something like that is a bit challenging, and to get my knitwear recognized by someone whose job it is to judge knitwear, I guess. Like, it's a massive boost to the ego. I guess it also reassured me that my color work and technique and you know, workmanship is great, and it's not just about are you able to follow a pattern, which sometimes I guess I mentally reduce my knitting to that. Like, if someone compliments me on my knitting, I just feel like, well, I just chose a pattern and chose a yarn and then followed the pattern. I don't feel like there's that much skill involved, but I guess maybe that's because I'm too close to the issue, and sometimes it's nice to just have this like out of body, you know, well, third eye, third perspective. It is actually very impressive. So yeah, really happy with that turn of events, and I will definitely participate again next year. So I remember in my last video, or the goals video, I had talked about some very specific goals, and I didn't write them down, so I've just tried to see quickly what they were. It was definitely knitting from books, and I've done that. I've done Sari Nordland, Mary Wallen, that might be it actually. I was planning to knit more socks from like the Charming Colorwork socks, and then the 52 weeks of socks, and I've not done that. I've really not had a lot of sock mojo lately, so not forcing it just for the sake of it. But I also had the goal of knitting 13 pairs of socks in a year from July to July, and I didn't meet that. I did 11, so yeah, again, just not gonna force it just for the sake of forcing it. Then I was planning to knit from Ravelry, and that's been achieved. I've knit the Birds of a Feather shawl, and I'm in the middle of knitting my pink velvet sweater. So that's really great because I keep on buying patterns in her birthday sales and then not knitting them. So now I've decided to put them a bit higher on the priorities list. I want to knit a Christmas jumper. Obviously haven't done that yet, but a kind viewer gifted me the Skin Deer Knits Festive Yoke sweater. So thank you very much. You've made my decision very just much easier to make. I will definitely be making that sweater. It's a 4-ply color work yoke or all over color work sweater or cardigan, so I'll be making that probably in Jamison's and Smith or Jamison's of Shetland Spindrift 4-ply. Another goal was to felt my beret. Haven't done that to Steek. I'll do it for my Yale, hopefully by the end of the summer. To do a jumper for Ross. I haven't done that, still got time. His birthday is in a month, but I don't think I'll do it by then or as a secret. I'll just have him try it along as we go. So I think that was it for my specific goals. Just, I guess, yeah, it was nice to have like the big generic ones and then the very tickable ones for the boxes. So I'll definitely try and see if I can get a bit more sock mojo by the end of the year, just to try and use those books a bit more. And if not, then that's also fine. So that's it for the goals. Then I'll show you now a little tutorial to use Ravelry to your advantage and to use tags to make sorting and finding things easier. Hi guys, so now I'm just going to show you what I do on Ravelry to just make organizing my projects a bit simpler and answer questions I have about my own data, I guess, just in case you're a bit nerdy like I am with things like that. So here you can see I've got all my projects. The way that I see them organized like this is I just go into my projects and then I just type on advanced search, and then that just can put them in this order: recently finished. You can also do most favorites or recently updated, but I feel like this is a good one to just get them in order. And to go one step further, if I wanted to see, for example, all the knits I finished in 2024, which is the filter I applied when I was planning this video that you just watched, I just type 2024 here and you can see Ravelry is suggesting finished in 2024. And here you can see that. And then this is how at a glance I could see that I had done 16 clothing items and 22 accessories. So here's all of them in order. And obviously you can do the same thing for 2023. So I don't think I did everything I did in 2023 video, and I guess the reason why is that I just had too many. Yeah, there were 34 items of clothing and 36 accessories. So anyway, that's how I like to see things at a glance. But to take it further, for example, in this video, I was trying to see everything that I had made that was hand-dyed. So what I do is that when I have a project, I use the tag section. And the way that you do that is just when you're editing your project and you're putting in the needle size or notes on your project, there's a little section here just under craft and pattern category above needle size that is called tags, and you can put whatever you want, and if you just put a space that delimitates the two tags, I think you can also use a comma if you want, but I just put a space. So a few that I like to use, for example, is the construction. So here I use contiguous. Then if it's an author I do a lot of, for example, my favorite things knitwear or Ozetta or Petite Knit, I like to put that too. And then if it's a summer item, I put that, and here my color palette light summer, I put that too. So if you save your changes, you can see that they appear as clickable buttons. So if I click on my favorite things knitwear, for example, then it's going to automatically pull up all the other ones that are from my favorite things knitwear that I tagged. And if we go in this one, for example, I put stripes. So you click on stripes and you can see all the stripy ones. And yes, I do include my color work ones as stripes because visually they do look stripy to me. Then here I've got V-necks, for example. And I think this is a really, really fun way to see your progress as a knitter, maybe see trends. Like, for example, is there a lot of ones from my favorite things knitwear? Is there a lot of V-necks or not enough? And obviously then, yeah, I did the hand-dyed tag, which was really helpful to see everything that was hand-dyed. And here, for example, I've got everything I've ever made that was hand-dyed, including works in progress. And then while this is still tagged, I can go and search for things I finished in 2024. And that's it. That was exactly what I had come across when I was preparing this video. Then you can use further filters. For example, I only want things that were done in DK. And there's actually only one DK hen dyed in 2024. Actually, there's a second one here, but because that yarn wasn't in the database, I don't think it's registering it as a DK. Oh well. So that's how I use tags. That really just the bare minimum. If you wanted to go further into this, there's a different ways that you can organize your tags. So if you just go into your regular notebook on your projects like this should be quite familiar to you. You can see here the projects are selected, but you can go to index and also organize. So if you go to the index, you can see things at a glance. So you can see here I've got 170 finished items, 21 hibernating, and 6 actively in progress. You can see the yearly breakdown, you can see the categories breakdown. It's really good. And then you can see your tags here, because it's quite good to keep in mind what you have if you create too many. 13 tags are hidden, and those are usually the ones that only have 1 or 2 being tagged. Like for example here, Summer of Pop Cal, you only have 1. So if you remove it, yeah, it just gets hidden to not clutter it too much. I think if I click on it, it might show me something. So Petite Knit, I just clicked on it. That's it. That's all my Petite Knit tags. There is quite a lot, obviously. So that's a good way to see them all at a glance. But then there's another way that you can see them at a glance, and that's if you click on Organize. Now if you click on Organize, you can see all of your projects, all of your tags, and then you can see projects that have multiple tags attached to it. So if I were to click on V-neck again, I can see all my V-neck tagged projects. And if I wanted to edit it, I would just have to click on it. So if I clicked on texture, for example, then I can just edit this here. I could add a tag or I could remove one. And then if I click save, it would apply those changes. So Stone Knits, I've only made 2 pairs of socks from her, which is surprising given how many I've saved in my queue. And you can see the tags in addition to Stone Knits. And I find that really, really useful. To be honest, sometimes I just forget that that's a function that exists, but I think this is good to see. For example, gift, this is something that I've gifted away. Sometimes I forget if my tag is called gift or gifted. So if I inadvertently created 2 tags that meant the same thing, this is where I could quickly go and merge the 2 together by changing all the gifted ones to gift and put them all in the same category, if that makes sense. So yeah, I really hope that this was helpful. I think that this is a fantastic version of a way to organize your projects, especially if you have many projects like me and you've been knitting for a long time. And if you want to take some inspiration from my tags, you're welcome to. Like I say, I like to do things around construction. For example, this is all the balloon sleeves. There's bottom-up constructions, cables, that's a really good one. That's really useful to see all the cables one at a glance. Sometimes I do the materials, like if the yarn has cotton, but keep in mind that those are things you can also search for filters in the normal Ravelry filter. So this is all my projects, and you can see, you can organize things by pattern category, and you can also search for fiber type, for example. So here I could filter things for anything that's linen, and it would automatically have that, as opposed to me creating a tag specifically for linen. But if it's something that you feel you're going to search for a lot, then obviously there's nothing wrong with creating that tag to make it faster. Like for example, I've made a cotton tag because I did want to see all the cotton ones at a glance faster. So I hope that was helpful, and let me know if you're going to be using that technique and if you have any other ideas of tags to use. Tags are relatively public, so if you click on one of my projects, then you can see the ones I've used on my project page. So feel free to take inspiration from that and to use them in your own projects. Okay, I hope that was helpful, and I'll just go to the end of the video now. Okay, so I hope that you found that helpful, guys. I would like to turn the question back to you and ask you, have you made any knitting goals this year, and where are you in terms of accomplishing them? Are you on track? Is it something that you've since forgotten since January? Or are you like me and you've kind of met half of them because that's where your focus has been? Because it's kind of hard to split yourself into so many corners. Have you made a Make 9 and are you on track with those like specific knitting plans? And do you have any goals that were similar to me? I guess I wonder if a lot of people have made the whole net neutral stash or net negative, because that's I guess at the forefront of a lot of people's mind is how much yarn do I own and do I have time to knit it all? I'd really like to talk to you guys more about this topic. It's really interesting to see where people are in terms of goals, and if it's something that they do at all or if it's something that stresses them out. And I guess it is a little personal to share them, so I really hope that you have something to say. Don't hesitate to leave a comment. I'd really like to talk to you guys. If you like this video, don't hesitate to give it a like, and if you really like this video, don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel to see more. I'm hoping to come up with a podcast episode next week if everything goes okay, and I will show you one finished item that's currently blocking. And yeah, I can't wait to do a bit more videos this summer. I'm feeling inspired. It's just hard sometimes to find the time to sit down and film, but it's always great to hear your feedback afterwards when I publish it. It is a little scary to think that we're more than halfway through the year and that in just less than 6 months I'll be knitting my final recap of the goals and then setting up goals for 2025, but let's not even talk about that because it is just July. But yeah, it was just interesting to sit down and stop and think about this, and I hope that I'm better armed to tackle the last half of the year. Hope you're doing well wherever you are, guys, and in the meantime, happy knitting. See you all later. Bye!